everyone, it's Carolyn here to share more channeled messages, but this time I'm going to also talk about kind of the add-on to one of my last videos about timelines. And I want to talk today about the timelines we are in, but not collectively. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit more information today about what I have noticed for myself, because it seems like every time I do a video, I kind of have to experience this myself before the video is actually done, which I suppose makes sense. But the point is I want to give you some ideas on what is now happening with me that I am noticing since we've had a collective timeline shift. Now, if you're not familiar with this, go back to the last video, or one of the last videos, where we talk about timelines. Celeste and I have that conversation. Anyway, point is this is a follow-on to us having shifted as a result of this virus that has come in to this new collective timeline. But this video is about individual timelines. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel. I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channels to help you along your ascension and awakening journey so you can better understand what's going on in your journey and that you're not alone. So I appreciate all of you who have always been here, and those of you who are new, welcome to my YouTube channel, Carolyn Zaiser, and I would love it if you like, share, and subscribe. You'll find a lot more free content. If you look below in the description box, there's a free video I've created for you on flow, how to create it in your body for health and wellness, particularly during this time of ascension and awakening. And then it leads you to more free content, including a channeled message each week from the Light Keepers, and more content that I offer for you in occasional emails. So anyway, thank you for joining me. So I do have a very, very short little channel. And so these came through, I have a series of like 12 that came through when I went on that private retreat, or silent retreat, I should say, at the monastery in early March. And for those of you who don't know, I also channel Rumi, I have learned, on the rare occasion that he pops in. It's at special times. It's kind of an interesting story in and of itself. But the point is this is one of the channels that Rumi offered me. If you're familiar with him, the Persian mystic, poet, and scholar from times of past, but he's here. So anyway, here you go. This is not from the Light Keepers. It's from Rumi. So you may get these on occasion because I'm starting to collect these. Okay, and then we'll get into the conversation about timelines. Brave you are in these times when the warrior awakens in front of you, for now you see yourself in a new light, stronger than you have known before. And that's it. But Rumi tends to come through in much shorter little poems, and really very much speaking in love, which can very much mean love in the human aspect that we think of romantic love, but also the love of the divine. The point is, I want to start talking today about some of the things that I have noticed in myself lately that I think you may be noticing as well. If you aren't noticing them now, in the shifts and changes that are going on for yourself since this collective situation with the virus, you may as you move forward, because I've been given a lot of information over the last week that this is happening to everyone, whether we recognize it or not. So first of all, let me back up. What they have given me, and this is a little bit of a repeat from a past video, is that we have shifted collectively into a new timeline, a more favorable, more high vibration timeline. Now, you might ask, how the heck could that be with this virus? How could this be higher vibration? Well, we were not on a great trajectory is what they're telling me. So because of the work that we've done, we ended up actually shifting to a new timeline. We were on one that was going to take us, honestly, to a darker place. And we won't go into that because that's not important now. We are at this new timeline. And I had mentioned how I knew the day when it happened. This is it's a couple weeks ago minus a day. Like 2 weeks ago this past Wednesday. I noticed like a shift. And I knew something had happened, and then I got the information that was our new collective timeline that we are on. Now, as we have moved to this collective timeline, they've given me this vision, and I may have mentioned this in another video, I don't think so, but that this visual is like a large rope, okay? And the rope, think of it like on a ship, those huge intertwined ropes, right? And what they're telling me is that within that, that's the collective timeline. within that collective timeline that we are all on, we have the individual little threads, right, that create, or that are part, I should say, of the collective timeline. Those are our individual timelines, okay? So they weave in and out, but they're still in the collective timeline. So you can think of those huge shipping ropes, okay? And intertwined, kind of braided, and we're in there each with our own timeline. So what does that mean? What that means is you, and even if you're not awakening or you're feeling like you don't even know what ascension is, but somehow you're watching my video, know that everyone has shifted to a higher vibration to one degree or another because of the collective timeline shift. And now guess what's happening? Your new timeline is unfolding. And, when they show it to me, some individuals are moving to a timeline where it's like, vroom, and you know it. Like there is a huge shift and change. Others, it's like just a little uptick. Now, a lot of people aren't even going to be consciously aware of this, but those of us who are familiar with awakening, going through it, and understand ascension, you're going to be more consciously aware that something has shifted and changed. So today I'm going to talk to you about the things I've noticed. And then when the information came through that, well, Carolyn, you've shifted to you're shifting, because it's not just you've shifted. You're shifting and adjusting to your new timeline. And this is why you are feeling the things you're feeling. You're noticing the things you're noticing. Now, some of these things I'm going to mention for me have been, and I'm very attuned to my body. I'm very attuned to my surroundings and what's going on. It may just be a subtle change and shift, but at the same time, it feels super significant, which sounds totally counter, right? But I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's like, feels like just a degree of change, but yet it feels like a big change. Again, far be it for me to be able to explain that in human terms. So today what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want you to know you're all moving to your own new timeline. If you haven't started to feel it, it's probably because, and many of us are, because we're still human and we're experiencing all this just like everybody else is in the collective to one degree or another. You may be still feeling the really heavy collective energies around all of this. Now it's lightened up a little bit in the sense of about 2 weeks ago where there was this super panic. Okay, not that that's not still there, but it was in spades. And now we've moved more into, I did that piece on grieving, the grieving process, because it's kind of what we're going through, but a little bit more of that acceptance, like, okay, this is where we are. I think I'm understanding how to deal with it. But the point is if you're still in the space of like that collective energy, you may not be noticing yet that you're moving into your own timeline. It's almost like there's parts of us that have to isolate ourselves from the collective. And I'm going to talk about that, how it's affected me as well. So first of all, know that you're all moving into your own new timeline. So what does that mean? I'm going to start through my list. I think I have like 12. I don't know. That doesn't really matter, does it? Okay, here are some things that have happened to me. First of all, I got my visuals. Okay, so I knew I was moving to a new timeline. I felt it. I knew something had shifted and changed in me. Now, as you're shifting to your new timeline, all right, which means new things are opening up for you potentially down the road. You may take, okay, so they're showing me now turning corners. Like instead of going down the straight path, you've decided to take a turn, okay? Things that you might not have considered before may pop up. You may find that the path you're on now, you're questioning and wondering, and this is what a lot of people are doing. Is this the path I'm desiring to take? Is this how I want to live my life? All right, so that's what all of this is about that I'm going to talk about and how it might manifest in you. First of all, what I just mentioned was highly sensitive to the collective, even more so. The energies that are coming into the planet as well right now, in addition to this new timeline shift, are creating more sensitivity in us. So what is important for us to be able to do, particularly those of us who are awakening and going through this very clear process, is for us to be able to insulate ourselves from all of the collective news, information, etc. Now, I know some of these things I've mentioned before, but this is an uptick, okay? Since we moved to a new timeline, you're going to notice this more because the thing is we become more high vibration, but at the same time we become more sensitive. So we're starting to notice a lot more of what maybe we noticed before, if that makes sense. So highly sensitive to the collective. I got to tell you, this morning, I have started to understand that I can't watch news as even a little bit. All right. So how do I stay in touch? Well, maybe I don't need to. So what I've realized for me is I cannot read words that have to do with what is going on for people with respect to the virus. Words carry emotion and carry a story. I can look at statistics though. Okay. I can look at numbers, but with no words around it. Just a data chart, okay? So you're going to all find your own way on this, and I'm not obsessed with it, but I do like to check the stats every now and then, okay? Like every other day. But you're going to find that you're holding on to collective energies, and you will probably, particularly if you're empathic, you'll notice this even more. So this is also a shift and change in the timeline you have moved to, because guess what? You're moving high vibration, you're more sensitive. Those things are going to impact you more, okay? So the other thing I've noticed very significantly is this idea of the thinning of the veil is more prevalent. Now, when I speak to, and my spirit team speaks to the thinning of the veil, what they're talking about is the veil that separates us and as humans in our 3D form to all the magic around us, okay? And that can be anything from departed loved ones being able to communicate with you to ships in the sky to fairies and gnomes and I mean, you name it. You guys know all this, right? And if you don't know all this, think of all the magical, mystical myths that, we've been told were myths that are actually real. Now you're starting to even more amp up what you feel, what you notice. I have had things, some very interesting magical things click in even more so in my face. I've had other friends have back-to-back repeated messages and signs in spades. I've had another friend who, right after we went into the new timeline, her father, who passed away not too terribly long ago, left a card, a beautiful "everything's going to be okay" card. "We are with you." It was a kind of a religious card, but it was very pointed with respect to having support from angels and God in general. And he had signed it. And it was not a card that anyone had ever found before or had been given to them before. It was just on the floor one day. And so my point is there are many magical things that are happening now because this veil is starting to thin for each of us. We have shifted up this timeline. You're moving into your own new timeline, and the veil is thinner. So more magic may come your way. I have noticed, and this may seem simplistic, but for me it's not. Oh, orbs, okay. Oh, I have chills. Orbs in my bedroom. I just one night felt like I had a lot of support around me. And so I turned off all my lights in my bedroom and I was in my bed. I turned on my camera on my phone and I just recorded. I said, is anybody here that would like to show themselves? And I kind of thought, right, like I'm going to get this on video. I played it back. I about fell over. I guess I couldn't. I was in my bed. But anyway, the point is it was amazing. I had 3 orbs fly right through my video. So this is all sense, and not that these things couldn't happen before this timeline shift to many of us, but we're all going to notice certain things that are going to shift and change with us in this new timeline. It may be a tiny uptick for you, but you're going to know that you have moved into your own timeline. All right? So you're more mystical, magical. Out of body. That's the next one. So I will literally be sitting here working with clients, and I have noticed lately that I'm able to, not that I'm trying, but as we work in the higher dimensions with things that we do day to day, you're going to feel a more like astral feel, like you are out of your body. I have, in many of my sessions this past 2 weeks, sat there and felt like my legs were not attached to me any longer. And it's a real trippy feeling. I've had that in the past, but nothing like I have had these last 2 weeks. I know, and then I check in and I'm like, what's this about? And they're like, this is about moving to that higher vibration. This is about being more astral in the day-to-day, if that makes sense. Like operating out of the 5D, but you're still in the human body. And you know how I've talked in the past about as we work in human form, we do this figure 8, and this is how they represent it to me, of going to 5D and higher and bringing that in to the 3D to work with that. That's what this is about, okay? And now that we've shifted timelines, what we're doing is we're bringing in a higher vibration back down in. And we're adjusting to that. We're adjusting to those feelings because we're more astral, if that makes sense. That's how they're describing it to me, okay? So you may feel more out of body. You may feel like, oh my gosh, my hands and my legs, and it's always my legs, feel like they are not attached to me. It's an interesting feeling. And so when it happens, just observe it. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so that's another, I'll just say, symptom of moving to a new timeline that I have noticed. Okay, gifts. When I talk about gifts, there are multiple gifts we get out of the awakening. They don't have to be intuitive gifts, the clairsentience, the clairaudience, all of that. But I'm going to speak to just that part because that's really what I have noticed for myself. But gifts, whatever those might be for you, where you've had an inkling of something that is happening for you, and it doesn't have to be the clairs. It can be anything. They're on the uptick. They're on the uptick. And so you may say, well, yeah, that makes sense. And it does, because what we're doing is we're moving up dimensionally. We're moving up to a higher vibration, and those gifts are more open to us. They're more available to us. So what I have noticed is my channeling, which, as you guys know, is pretty prolific. That's kind of my thing. It's the foundation of what I do. Oh my gosh, I can just channel like that now. Now, I was doing that, but it's different. Like I said, you're going to see this subtle uptick, but you're going to know it. You're going to know it. Like, I can't stop now. Like, I literally get on the phone with Celeste, my friend and colleague, and we'll start talking, and it's just, and I said, oh, here, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing this. I mean, it's that fast. Okay, I don't even have to, it's as though they are a third party in the conversation, and I dial them up on the phone too. So anyway, you're going to see an uptick in your gifts, and whatever that means for you. Remember, it doesn't have to be magical, mystical. It might be, let's just say you're an artist. Okay, this one's popping in. Your art may change and shift to something even more, okay, they're just saying highly energetic, shifting to, a different dimension of art. I don't know. Anyway, those of you who are artists, maybe you'll figure that out. But anyway, point is you're going to see very likely, as you move through this new timeline, as you adjust to this new timeline, shifts and changes in gifts. Another thing I've noticed lately is clearing. As we adjust to this new timeline of our own, remember, we're having to adjust to this new vibration because it is a new vibration. So you're going to clear more. That can mean many things, okay? And I'm just going to be straight with you. You may have changes in your bowel habits. That is a major way we clear. I know that sounds trippy, but it's a way of our cells clearing. So we're continuing to clear, and adjust to energies. And so what does our body do? It makes its adjustments, and we have to expel a lot of that. So point is you may notice some of that. You'll also may notice, when I think of clearing, I think also of emotions. Lots of times we will have feelings and sensitivities come into us to adapt to adjust to. We may have memories coming in again. We may have dreams again. Like again, I go back to, it's not that all these are new, it's that there's an uptick, and you're kind of thinking, oh God, I thought I was done with this. Nope, because you're moving to a higher dimension. You're now clearing out things that either you have remnants of or you haven't had a chance to address because it wasn't time. And so dreams, thoughts, feelings, emotions, bodily reactions, which is what I just mentioned. So all kinds of things, okay? So we're adjusting to a new energetic vibration. And with that comes the physical again too, okay? So we're not done with that. We're continuing to shift and change. All right, so that's clearing. Habits, okay. This one can be a little disturbing. What I noticed in the very beginning, when we kind of just as the US started to realize, oh, this is a thing, meaning the virus, all right? And then we shifted timelines as a collective. I, for one, felt the collective energy, did not understand that I couldn't watch the news fully, right? I couldn't even really stay connected. But the point is I was feeling the anxiety, and then suddenly and of course some of that was mine. I mean, we all have some feeling about this one way or the other, right? So you feel something. Habits started to come back that I thought I had overcome. And I don't want to say in spades, but to a point where I was getting a little worried, like, oh, well, I've worked on this, and why is this happening to me again now? Know that as we go through these times, we can often fall back into things that we used to do that weren't for our higher good because of our reaction to the stress, okay? It's that human remembrance of, oh, this is what I used to do to deal with that kind of stress. And oftentimes we take it out on ourselves, right? Whatever that is. So that bad habit, as you're shifting into your new timeline, so we've taken on the collective stress at one point, and then we may have realized it, but we're also moving to that new timeline, okay, that feels stressful because our body's reacting, and you're moving within that collective timeline, your own timeline, okay? And you're adjusting to that. Be aware, particularly as we're being more isolated, that you can fall back into bad habits. I did that for like 4 days. And I mean, I'm just lucky it didn't last longer. So 4 days of that. And suddenly I remember waking up in the middle of the night saying, no more. I don't need to do this. And I also don't need to beat myself up about this. And I called my angels and guides in, and I actually had a middle of the night conversation and said, I don't want to do this anymore. Help me, assist me, put this aside for me. Like I had. So I woke up the next morning. I felt totally different. I felt high vibe. I hadn't been. And my habits started to fall away again. It's almost like you have to get past this bump or this hump. Now that's what they're showing me. It's like they said getting over the hill. Okay. So it's like a remembrance of how you used to, they just said troubleshoot. How you used to troubleshoot stress in your life. And oftentimes we'll take it into ourselves and do things that are not for our higher good or our body's higher good. And so consequently, you may see those peak back in because remember, we're dealing with all these new energies and your timeline is now adjusting to all of this as well. So watch the habits. You can call out to your angels and guides for assistance. Become aware of what you are doing during this time. Are you doing things for your higher good or have you slipped back? You can adjust back out to that. But remember, this is an adjustment time for you moving to your own new timeline. Okay, I've talked about not feeling motivated. Guess what? This is a time where we are to take this time for ourselves and go within. I have mentioned this before, that I have felt like, and this was before it all kind of went down with the virus, fully, I would say, that I've felt like, and I think it was a precursor of things to come. I think my higher self was preparing me, right? But I was feeling like I really didn't want to do anything. I mean, kind of trouble getting out of bed, not because I was depressed, but just I felt like I needed to be in bed more. I felt like I needed to be out in nature more, doing things that weren't really doing things, being productive. You're going to feel yourself as you shift into this new timeline. And this is also purposeful because we are here to kick back the best way we can. I know we're all in very different individual circumstances during this, and it can be extremely stressful, but to be able to kick back and take some of that time for ourselves to go within. And with that can often come not feeling motivated to do anything. And that is okay. So what I'm doing, we'll see if I can do this. In another week, it's my intention, I'm just going to say this out loud, to take a week off. Yeah, and I don't know what that means yet, but I'm going to try. I am really super motivated person typically and highly productive, and I haven't had great balance in the past, and I think I've told you that. So I'm going to try to see if I can take a week off that wasn't a planned week, because I was actually supposed to go on vacation for 2 weeks at the end of April. That is not going to happen. But I'm going to see what it means to stay at home and not work. So we'll see how that works out. I will keep you posted. So anyway, know that you may not feel motivated. So lean into it. Listen to that. What does it mean for you? Lean into it. Again, this is all part of shifting to this new timeline. It's like they just said, okay, like status quo. They just said status quo, like just stay there. Don't think you have to keep achieving and creating out of this, because this is not the time to actually be making these major leaps and shifts. Now, meaning action, okay? Because you can't really. Most of us can't do the thing, right? Fully. Now, there are some of us in pockets that are meant to do certain things now and create out of it. But in general, right now, what is happening for people is this is a time to insulate, to let it gel, to let these changes take place within you. And it's okay not to be motivated. All right. We got a few more here. This one I think is so interesting, and it's very hard to explain. I have mentioned before what this is like for us as those who are awakening. And, we're all moving through the ascension, regardless of whether awakening or not, in the collective. And we're all doing this together. You know how I've talked about that in the past. This is all about us doing this together, all right? Not some being left behind in that sense. But where this idea of left behind comes from, and it's a feeling that I also have, that you'll have too, but the visual they've given me and explained over and over again, and this is it's happening now, is two translucent pieces of paper, tracing paper, okay? Almost, where you can see through the top layer to the design on the bottom. I've mentioned this before. So what they have shown is that's what we're talking about here. We've got how do I want to say this? Like those of us awakening, going through the ascension, which all of us are going through the ascension. We're not all awakening, but as we're moving into different dimensional energies day to day, we're here, okay? But we overlay the rest of humankind. And yet we're separate in that sense. We're working in a higher vibration, but we bring it back down into 3D, and they show us lying on top of the other piece of paper, but you can see through. You know what I'm talking about, tracing paper, right? So you're able to see through. So you actually have two separate pieces of paper, but you see the design below. That's the inner workings that we have together. We're on a separate trajectory in a sense, energetically, but at the same time, we're bringing that back into the rest of us, because we're lying on top of each other in the sense you see the design. We are not separate. So it is very paper thin now in that sense, but the thing is, we are here in 3D, but we're not. All right. We now, as we move to this new timeline and our own new timelines, we are, as awakened individuals, doing our work in our journey. We are here in 3D, but we're not here, if that makes sense. We're operating out of a higher plane of existence, but we're bringing it back in, helping everyone rise in their vibration, which is why we move to this different timeline collectively too. Okay, so everybody is moving into their own new timeline, but with us, those of us who are awakening, it's this idea of that overlay. I hope that makes sense, but you're going to feel it more and more through a lot of the things that I've just already talked about. Another one is this time that we have right now of what I'll just call stillness. You're going to, or at least I think you will start in moving into this new timeline, because it all goes hand in hand. That's why we have this now, okay? That's why we have what's happening in the collective, so that we can adjust to this newer high vibration, to the energies coming in. So it's purposeful for many, many, many reasons. I could do 10 videos on all the reasons that we're having this happen. But one of the things is right now, we need this quiet time to integrate the new energies, integrate the new timeline collectively, and what it means for us individually. It doesn't mean you have to sit down and figure it out. You don't need to sit down and go, oh, what's my new timeline? No, it's just unfolding naturally. So part of this natural process is you are going to potentially, like I have felt, a greater stillness, a greater quietness. You are simplifying things. I am finding in spades, I've kind of wanted to clean a lot still, but I am finding I'm spending more time sitting on my deck. Now you might say, well, why is that interesting? Because I don't ever do it. I never sit. I never just sit. I have redone a whole back deck that I've never used in all the years I've lived here. It's absolutely stunning, I think. And I get to sit under the stars and the moon, and I'm doing it. I spent the whole last evening doing that. I'm having my coffee out there in the morning when the sun rises. And so for me, That's a huge shift and change. It's simplifying, 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 quieter times. And this is part of that new timeline shift. We need this time to insulate. We need this time to be able to go through this journey. Now, I realize we're all in different stages of this. Some of us are dealing with loved ones, or maybe even ourselves, with the virus. We have all different circumstances, but know that every single person, regardless of where we are in our own journey, we're shifting to a new timeline, and all the activities around it that are happening now are purposeful, regardless of how difficult they might be. So I'm here to tell you, not everything is magical. Although if we look at, and when I say magical, feeling like, isn't this cool and fun? No, it's not. And it's part, though, of this shift and change, moving us to this timeline, this new timeline of ours. Okay? The other thing I've noticed is time is more fluid. Time is more confusing. Time is kind of not existing. I have had struggles with time, like remembering, well, what is what and when is when, right? But now it's in spades for me. Like I was off. I could not remember that it was actually Tuesday when I was thinking it was Sunday. I was that far off. I am struggling to understand that we are through a week already. It's going so fast. Other times it feels like it was 10 years ago. So there's this, oh, they just said time warp. Okay, that makes sense. Time warp. Okay, they said we'll all experience it differently. It doesn't mean that if you're experiencing it slower versus faster, it's one thing or another. It's just part of the shift and change. Okay, into your new timeline. All right. And again, we can all argue, well, time doesn't exist. We are here in human form experiencing time. So that's why they speak to it in this way. And so consequently, one of the things I have very much noticed is time is, they just said more ethereal. It's more like a non-entity. And yet, and think about it like this, given many of us are, sheltered in place, or, our movements have been reduced of what we can do, there's not a lot of need for that time as much as there was, okay? I do realize that a lot of us are working from home, but at the same time, this can all play out individually for you in one way or another, even if you are still involved in your day-to-day work. So those are the things I want to share. But the biggest thing now, I want to explain about your own timeline. So what this means right now, that came into me this morning, is that this is, and this came in way early on, like 2-3 weeks ago, where we are in a suspended animation. But what I didn't understand at that time was that we had shifted collectively in our timeline, and just in the last week realized that we are moving to our own individual timelines within that collective timeline. And so what is occurring at present? This is where it's like they just said stopgap measure. Basically, we are stopped in our tracks. And as we go through this integration period, which it is, okay, everything I've talked about is about integrating. Everything ceases in our timeline. Okay, yeah, you still have activities, still doing things, but our timeline isn't moving forward, if that makes sense. And when we come out the other end, okay, this is all new incoming information. What you thought you were working on before may not at all be what you are working on as you come out of this. So they're showing a tunnel, us going in, and we're kind of stuck in this tunnel, this dark tunnel, okay? But there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to go through that tunnel, which we're doing now. We're going to come out at the end of that tunnel. And the activities, the things you thought you were working on, the things that you felt were your life forward, your, mission forward, things you started to build, they're likely going to take a shift either to one degree or another. Some will be, they just said great leaps, shifts and changes. Others will be minute. But right now it's, they're saying that again, suspended animation, because this is the adjustment to our new timeline, okay? And it's going to be dramatic, is what I'm getting. Okay, that just came in. I have super chills. It's going to be dramatic because it's going to uptick everyone. And, you can argue that the person that has the lowest vibration on the planet, whoever that is or whatever group that is, oh, they just said there'll be heart-opening moments because everybody's going to crack open a little bit more. But we're also going to shift as a result of that to the things that we actually do down the road. Now, that may have to do with relationships. That may have to do with work. I can think of 10,000 examples, and I'm not going to keep this video going any longer to explain all that. But what you thought you were working on may take a shift and change. What you're creating out of may take a shift and change. And what I'm very much getting is this is an acceleration forward afterwards. Now, 2020, and Celeste and I are going to do a video pretty soon, I think for Sunday maybe, of what's to come in 2020, kind of what we see. And we don't pinpoint exact dates, but we pinpoint time frames. 2020 is a great time of shift and change. So this would make a whole lot of sense that your individual timelines will also very likely be full of shift and change, and you're adjusting to your new higher vibration timeline. So know that it's for your greater good. Listen to your intuition, do your meditations, do your self-care. Know that you're tapping into what is to come for you, whether it's a minute shift and change that you will notice as you're tapped into yourself and you're doing the self-care and you're doing the meditation and the quiet times as the foundation of our awakening journey. You're going to feel that. And if you have an inspiration or something come your way of this is no longer working for me, this is what I need to be doing, and you feel it and you know it, that's your new timeline coming into play. A lot of us will feel subtle shifts and changes if we're really attuned to ourselves. But a lot of us, this is part of the Great Awakening in humankind. We're going to shift and change into our new timelines that are going to allow us to create out of that in a higher vibration plane of existence. So I'm going to stop there today. I hope some of these things have been helpful for you in understanding that you right now are shifting into your newer timeline. I know exactly when I bumped into mine and was like, oh, here we go. And again, it's not a one-stop kind of situation. It's a gradual move into that new timeline, but you may also understand it. I also know of other friends who have talked to me about odd things that have happened, and I said, you just shifted in your own new timeline. So again, you may be able to tap in and understand that this right now is happening to you. If it's not happening to you right now, you will find it happening down the road. So just know, even if you can't tap in and feel it, we're all shifting to a higher vibration place. We are all part of this new collective timeline that looks like that ship rope. Just think about that. And we're intertwined in there individually into our own new higher vibration timeline. So thank you so much for joining me today. And as I always remind you, check out purplerainhealing.com. I'm offering a new service now, as I mentioned in my last video, something that is more probably appropriate for the times, where I have a discounted distance energy healing session for 30 minutes that will help you become higher vibe, will help you integrate these energies, and also give you a short personal channeled message. Again, I channel throughout all of my services, distance energy healing and channeling, 3 channeled services, one with Celeste where we do a soul journey for you. Additionally, I do spiritual awakening mentoring where I help you through your awakening journey. I would so love to work with you. So check out my services, purplerainhealing.com, and I will see you in the next video.